What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review of the KB Knives Sumo. Now the Sumo is in via the Lefty passaround group and is part of the package of the Sumo. And if you guys caught my last video, the KB Knives Wolf, I apologize about the reviews being kind of broken up. Just been very busy recently and haven't had a whole lot of time to dedicate to the channel, but I do have a couple reviews to bang out this week, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But today we're going to be talking about the Sumo from KB Knives or Kubi. KB and Kubi are the same thing. KB is now a sort of sub-brand from Kubi. I'm not really sure, how they all tie in together, because it's basically the same brand. But yes, KB Knives. I will leave a link in the description down below to White Mountain Knives, where you guys can find all five variations of the Sumo. However, they are all currently sold out, so if you guys are interested, you can sign up to be notified when they are available. And yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump right into the review, starting off with materials. This is obviously a Jacob Hoback design, and there is a little bit of kind of some drama surrounding this model. The Sumo was, I don't know if it still is, but I believe it was a standalone model from Jacob under Hoback Knives. You guys can see his maker's mark right there. A couple years ago, he was producing, or having sold the Sumo as a USA made knife. I think it was like a $700 knife, something like that at the time. And there was some drama that came out because people realized that it was not being made in the USA. And now, a couple years later, this model comes out via Kubi or KB Knives, and people are kind of speculating like maybe that's who was making it all along. Like I said, it was a big thing back. I think it was 2-3 years ago. It was kind of just when I was getting into making videos for the channel. But yeah, I just remember Lefty, Kevin, was talking about it, and there was some stuff going on at the time regarding this model. But yeah, so this one specifically is in this really dark wash titanium. I love this sort of apocalyptic dark wash, sort of an acid wash. You guys can see some scratching on there, but I just really love how monotone it is. Obviously, this is a button lock. You have a really interesting sort of integral looking backspacer here. You also have a very interesting clip that sits right at the top of the scale. You have a fuller on both sides as well as a thumb disc. I'm not the biggest fan of thumb discs, but it works decently well. Then over here with the blade, you have, excuse me, a very interesting sort of reverse tanto sheep's foot style blade. A nice swedge button up top there. Decently, I would say medium thickness on the blade stock. You have a ton of internal milling there on the inside, and the blade is 20 CV. Again, button lock apparatus for close, and then fuller for deployment as well. Some quick specs for you guys. So an overall length from tip to butt is 7.24 inches. You have a blade length of 3.15, a handle length or close length of 4.09, a blade width of 1.38, and it comes in weighing just under 4.5 ounces at 4.45. So definitely is a little bit of weight compared to the overall size of the knife, but it's one of those weights that feels really good in the hand and very substantial. A good usable weight, nothing that is going to be overly heavy in the pocket or anything like that. But like I said, there are 5 different variations of it. There's this version. There is a fully blacked out version with blue accents. There is the typical satin, sort of plain titanium with blue accents. You have a full anode blue with a stone wash or satin. And then you have a burnt bronze with a black wash blade and black wash handles. Like I said, they're all currently sold out on White Mountain Knives, but I'm still going to leave a link to their website down below, because on KB's website, they're also sold out, but they are over $50 more on KB Knives, as they typically are, when you buy them directly from OEM manufacturers. So if you're interested, definitely check out White Mountain Knives and keep an eye on them. Whenever they come back in stock, you can get them for much less. But as far as materials are concerned, 20 CV, full titanium, button lock, really good build quality. KB's been really killing it, or excuse me, KB's been really killing it recently. So hard to argue against anything like that, but 5 out of 5 on the materials. And yeah, next up is going to be aesthetic. Now, I don't think this knife looks bad. I mean, it's a decent looking knife in general. I've always thought it was a solid looking knife. You know, I love the blade shape. Again, sort of a reverse Tanto sheep's foot vibe going on. And it does have a decent flow to it. I'm just, it's, you know, it's a good looking knife. It's just nothing is there drawing me to it like emotionally or like physically. I'm like, I have to have that knife. I'm just not getting those vibes from it. But I still think it's a relatively, you know, attractive looking knife when it comes to the overall aesthetic of it. The pot clip is, the pot clip, it doesn't look good aesthetically, or I don't think it functions that well, you know, as far as clips go. So that's kind of a loss. But overall, I think this is still a very good looking knife. We're gonna go 4.5 on it. You know, not a 5 out of 5, but it's still an above average looking knife, so we'll go 4.5. Next, we're gonna move on to action. Now, the D10 on this is, I would say, kind of run of the mill when it comes to button locks. You know, button locks are kind of hard to dial in completely, and I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm obviously trying to fail it. The D10 just isn't as crispy as, you know, you typically like to see when it comes to button locks. You of course have these dual thumb discs right here on both sides. I much prefer a thumb stud. I've just never really vibed with the thumb discs, you know, on different knives and things like that. Then you also have a fuller here, and of course you can depress the button, use a little bit of wrist, and open it that way. Never been a huge fan of that, but it is kind of fun to do in a, you know, if you're just sitting on the couch watching TV and you want to just kind of fidget with the knife. But I'm never going to pull it out of my pocket and go like that. I'm just going to flick it. So when it comes to the thumb discs, you just land right behind here with the thumb flick. Flies out. Same thing back here. You have a little bit of landing area for your middle finger. It also flies out. I feel like with the D10, comparing the D10 to the thumb discs to the fuller, I can get a much better snap, it feels like. Maybe because I'm lower on the blade with the reverse flick, but when it comes to the thumb flick, it's like such an awkward angle because you got to get past this curvature here in the scale. So to get down to it, you got to drop way down to it, and it just is, it's more unnatural to do that. So with the thumb flick, I definitely prefer the thumb disc. Just operates much better. And then with the reverse flick, the thumb disc works fine, but I definitely prefer to just drop down to the fuller and flick it out that way. Then of course with the close, no blade play, locked up really nice and tight. You guys can see the plunge lock there. There is a little bit of button stick, however, it comes and goes. Like if you fidget with the knife quite a bit, if you can hear this or not, it's almost like a tactile detent lock or detent button stick. So it's some people like that. I'm kind of in the middle. It depends on, honestly, the knife in general, but it doesn't really bother me too much. Still pretty good. You guys can see it drops nice and tight. Very consistent. So overall, yeah, the D10 is good. Not great, but the action, and you guys can see there is some oil coming out around the pivot. It's kind of awkward. But as far as the action is concerned, I'm going to go 4.5 on it as well. You know, it's still an above average action to fidget with and to operate, but I don't know if I had better, you know, better manipulation of the thumb discs. Since, you know, if we had thumb studs instead of thumb discs, that might ramp it up a little bit. But as far as the action is concerned, I feel like a 4.5 is good for me personally. So next we're going to move on to acoustics. also above average. You guys know I typically start out about 3.5 when it comes to my acoustics. I'm going to slot this one right in with a 4. Very much above average. You do get all that internal milling on both sides, which allows for sound to reverberate. And of course, with button locks, you're going to get drop, but it is a really nice thwack. A little bit more high pitch would have been nicer, but I still think 4. It's a very, very good score here for the acoustics on the Sumo. So yeah, we'll go 4 out of 5 and move on. Next to ergos. Now this is not a huge knife. You know, I think I said the handle was about 4.2 inches, somewhere in that range. And it's an overall relatively easy design, but you do have, so the backspacer is tucked in here to the scales, but then up here you have the backspacer come up to protect the blade, because if not, the way the knife is designed, you would get your hand caught there on the edge of the blade and more than likely cut yourself. So that, it's not really much of a bother in, you know, a saber grip, or excuse me, a hammer grip. But saber grip, depending on how you operate it, your thumb can kind of land, you know, here, and that's going to be kind of bothersome because like the, you know, bottom half of your thumb is landing on it, which is causing it to be a little bit uncomfortable. But as long as you are choked back and you can land up here on sort of the thumb disc area or even out further to be doing push cuts, not bad at all. The clip you can feel a little bit, just because it's so skinny and it does have a little bit of a point up here. I can feel it, you know, it's because typically clips are not this high in the knife. They are more so in the middle of the scale. And because of that, the clip is typically, when it lands, it's right here into the crevice of my, sort of my knuckles. But on this knife, you have it up here a little bit more, so it's more into the palm of your hand, which is a little bit uncomfortable. I don't really love that. But saber grip works fine, hammer grip works fine. You know, you could use this in a self-defense manner if you absolutely had to. Probably not the best knife to do it with, but anything is better than nothing. But the titanium is really nicely chamfered and rounded in all, you know, pretty much the right edges and right areas, besides the backspacer and the clip. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad ergonomically. It never really, you know, sunk home to me that this was phenomenal when it comes to ergos and handling. I'm going to go 4.5 again. I just don't think, there's just a few small nitpicks for me that I'm not comfortable giving it a 5. But depending on your hand size and depending on, you know, your operation of how you use this knife, you can choke up a little bit here if you need to. I could see it being higher. I could also see it being lower. So it's just kind of one of those designs where it's going to depend on your hand size and, you know, overall use of the knife. Next up is carry. Pull out my hank here. I will show how the clip operates. It is a very tight clip. And again, you only have about that much into your pocket. So, I mean, it's not like, there's been knives that I've reviewed that have had much more sticking up out of your pocket. Like the Wolf, for example, you get a lot sticking up out of that thing. I don't know. There's just something about, I'm not a fan of the clip. Aesthetically, I don't love it. Ergonomically, I don't love it. And from a use standpoint, I don't love it as well. You know, it's not deep carry. You have, again, about that much sticking up out of your pocket. And it's, you know, it's not reversible, which, you know, take it or leave it. But I mean, it is a small package. So, I mean, it does fit into your pocket pretty well. You have no flipper tab, but you do have some jimping here, but your hand is just going to bounce right off of it. And then same thing down here. All this is, you know, extended from the typical smoothness that you get on the edge or the spine of a handle. You have no reason to possibly catch on it because it's just going to, again, bounce right off of it. I only carried this a few times. I was, you know, this was a knife that I was much more excited for, and then I got it in and I was just more drawn to some other stuff that I had in a review, and overall, you know, wasn't in love with the knife as much as I thought it would be. So as far as carry is concerned, I only carried it a few times. A couple times in my, you know, just gym shorts around the apartment. I did carry it once in my bird dogs at my, you know, kind of 3 or 4 o'clock pocket that I have on those, and it carried fine. But again, not a fan of the clip. Wish it was deeper carry. Wish it was just manipulated a little bit better. So I'm going to go 4 on this one, which leads me to my final category of price point / value / would I recommend this knife. So looking at the price point, like I mentioned earlier, the White Mountain Knives price is much different than the KB Knives website price. If you're buying directly from KB Knives, you're gonna be paying about $270, where if you buy right from White Mountain, it comes in at $216. All 4 variations do, which is really nice. I love when knives are just, you know, the same price across 4 or 5 different variations instead of different pricing. So you're talking about 215 bucks. Use someone's code, you're gonna be getting down to about 200 bucks. I think that's a good deal. I'm not the biggest fan of the knife in general, but if you are a fan of this design, you know, and a fan of Kubi, and a fan of Jacob Hoback, then I can absolutely think that this could be a good option for you. I mean, this isn't gonna be something I run and recommend though. Like it was okay, and it's kind of just a man knife. You know, a lot of people are probably going to enjoy it a lot more than I did for the review process, but it's just one of those things that, you know, it never really vibed with me too much. It was just one of those things I just wanted to, you know, carry it enough to kind of get an understanding and be able to portray my opinions to you guys, but nothing that I'm gonna I'm gonna send this off to the next person and, you know, probably I'm never gonna miss it, never gonna think about it again. So I do think the price point is good. Can I recommend it? Again, you have to be very into, I think, you know, this style of design, but I think the value is good. Again, KB and Kubi in general has been knocking out of the park recently with price point, value, materials, all that. So I do think that is a 5. And again, can I recommend it? Sure, like it's good enough to recommend to specific people, but not something that I'm going to be like, yeah, you have to buy this knife, you have to buy this knife, you have to buy this knife, if that makes sense. So let me get a score here for you guys real quick, and then we will finish up this review. Surprisingly, I only had 2 5s there all day, so make my math be a little bit harder here, but we have all right, yeah, so I have the KB Knives Sumo coming in at a score of 31.5, which puts it in the great category. I think that's a fine landing spot for it. Again, not a knife that I was overly enthused about, but still good enough to give it credit when credit is due, with, you know, different applications of it and different parts of the review. I think it shined through. But yeah, leave a comment down below. Do any of you guys have the KB Knives Sumo? Or do any of you guys have the original Sumo from Hoback from a couple years ago? If you do, let me know what your thoughts are on it. I'll always love to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, KB Knives Sumo, solid knife. Not for me necessarily, but overall a decent knife. So yeah, but I'm going to wrap this up now. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, day, night, whenever you're watching this. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.